I'm trying to be the man who I am because he wasn't the man that I wanted to be.
The goal is for you, for men in general, to figure out a way to end the sins of our fathers.
Strength with humility is everything. Because you can be strong, be a strong leader and demand it out of strength, or you can be humble and earn it. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Beardsmen. I'm Spence.
My name is Mink.
We're the co-founders of Live Bearded, and we've been talking about what it means to be a man in the world today for, 20 years?
Yeah, we met almost 20 years ago, and we've been having conversations about how to be a man, what it means to be a man, how we create family, have success, all the things related. And we figured we might as well just start recording these conversations. And so today we invited a great friend on the show, Josh Acosta. What's up, man? How are you?
Gentlemen, I'm so excited to be here.
Let's go.
I'm
Nice,
pumped.
man.
Good to have you.
Thank you, Zach.
Nice, man. One of the first questions we love asking people is, who is Josh Acosta? You know, like everybody has an external perspective of who someone is, but we want your perspective of who you are.
Who I am? I'm Josh. There's really no one, what I've been told, no one else that is like Josh. My friends over at KMLE Radio, they did this little thing where they FaceTime someone like, hey, if they don't answer, who are you going to call if your life or death situation? And one of them FaceTimed me. And at the end, Nico was like, hey, like, we all needed Josh. Because I just was like, hey, what's up? Like, what do you need? Like, that was my first reaction was, what's up? What do you need? And that's just how I am. I'm always, not always been like that, obviously. But I'm very helping oriented is my passion, and what I've learned in these past few years is I was born to help people. I was born to be there for people no matter what it means.
Love it.
So that's
and reliable.
That's me. Yes.
And reliable.
Yes, reliable.
It's amazing. People don't answer the phone anymore, so let alone getting a FaceTime randomly. Did you know the number that was calling you?
No.
You just picked it up.
Well, hers.
I should not say what just happened to me because it makes me seem like a giant asshole. I haven't talked to my grandma in a really long time, and she just FaceTimed me twice, and I was like, I'm getting ready for this interview. I'll call her back later.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's with my...
All right, Grandma Mink, call Josh. He'll answer, and he'll get you Mink.
I'll try
am I
to
getting
mimic
this
your
call?
voice and try and get you in there.
So give us a little bit of backstory. I mean, obviously, you're a husband, you're a twin dad, you're a beardsman, you're a badass, fitness background. Give us a little backstory about yourself.
Yeah, I grew up in a very poor Baltimore area, not living the best life. My mom worked multiple jobs, so it was kind of just me. Me and my friends got into some stuff that normal kids around that neighborhood got into, and my mom shipped me out to Oregon. I had one of my older brothers went to school out at Oregon. She was like, you're done. You're not going to get into this stuff. And I've seen it all. My wife always makes fun of me being a 10-year-old drug dealer and all that fun stuff. But it is true, so got a basketball scholarship to a school in Oregon and ended up getting injured. So I had to figure out different ways, different avenues, and ended up graduating with an exercise science degree and a psychology minor. Opened up gyms in Washington, moved to Colorado, met my wife, and moved here. So it's been a fun, eventful transition of everything that we've been through up to this point. And now I'm relearning everything. I'm figuring out who I am with everything that has happened. And
I think that's one of the most difficult things that a man goes through is uncovering who is he, who does he want to be, and then ultimately what's going to be that fuel source, or what is that it factor, that thing that drives us to learn, to grow, to achieve, to provide, protect, etc. It sounds like you've had a few different stages in your life. Take us back to like when you're first getting started. What was that fuel source? Who are you trying to be? And then how has that evolved over time?
yeah, so my first recollection that I've done is my biggest goal was to just be that guy that everyone knew. I had Louis Vuitton this, Gucci that, drove a BMW.
You were trying to be a somebody.
Yeah, and that's who I hung out with, and those were my people. I used to, go to clubs and have VIP tables and party with some of the NFL guys, and that's just who I was. And I used to drink all the time, and that was just who I was. And it's just, that's who I was surrounded myself living in, Washington area. It's pretty pretty luxury up there in the Sammamish Redmen. So that's just who I was then. And my goal was just to be that guy that everyone knew was the fun guy, you know. And I never got into the drug scene, but it was like the alcohol for me was just fun.
Yeah.
And it was a blast. So
Was that like that pursuit because you wanted to feel connected, or you wanted to be accepted, you wanted to feel significant? Like,
Yeah, like when you say that guy, right? Like who are you that guy for?
definitely not for me.
Yeah.
That's for damn sure. For everyone else, you know, just be like, oh yeah, getting texts, hey, I have a table for you, come visit. You know, I just wanted to be the center of attention for all the wrong reasons. And that's definitely changed now.
Yeah.
But that was my goal, was to be, you know, that guy that, oh, let me hit up Josh. Let me do this. Let me do that. Let me see if, you know, Josh can get me, you know, into a club. Let me see if Josh can train me. Hey, he knows this person, and let's see what they can do for me. And I was okay with that because I was just that guy that
the
people
guy.
would turn to for literally whatever they needed.
is it safe to say you got value and significance from being the guy that could be transactional and make stuff happen?
For me personally, yes. I felt happy with myself and I was okay with being that guy.
Yeah.
Because people needed me, you know, and this is kind of what is actually just hitting me now. It's like helping people. You know, now I'm helping people in a totally different way. But then was just like an instant gratification type of help that I was doing for them. But I was still helping, and I was still there for them, but for all the wrong reasons. So that's where I feel was huge.
What was a different time in your life? You were single, you weren't married, you weren't a father yet.
I was
you're still
22, 23 years old. You know, and I was still a baby. I still am considered a baby, you know. So
that's it.
When did that start to change?
When I moved out here to Arizona, I met the one. You know, you always talk about, you know, all these love stories. You find the one, and then I know I wasn't the best husband the first time, you know, and was the situation where I had to work through myself and try and figure out, okay, what do I want? You know, what's the best for me? And when I met my wife, it was kind of like a flip of a switch, and I was like, she's the one that's gonna help me. Didn't realize it at the time, but I knew that there was something about her that I was just so drawn to. That whole the star-crossed lovers that Shakespeare talks about. You know, it's like, whoa, it really hit me in the face. And then once I figured out her story, and once I figured out my story, and everything was weird how it lined up, and she was definitely the one that fixed me and pulled me out of who I was, just to be a better person.
I want to dig into that a little bit more, because when you say fix you, if you can break that down, like was she actually doing the fixing, or was she encouraging you to evolve your standards, and she's reflection for you to say, wow, I need to get my shit together?
That's exactly
and she
what it
believed
was.
in you and encouraged you, and you did the work on yourself to elevate your standards.
Yeah,
right?
She was that person that brought the good out of me. Not because she wanted to, but just being around her. I wanted to be a better man. I wanted to be a better, you know, then boyfriend. I wanted to be a better fiance. I wanted to be a better husband. And it's because she's just that person that I needed to help. And she still does it. We're 5-year anniversary is coming up.
Sick, bro.
You know,
Congrats.
it's wild to me, 5 years. And I was
How does it go so fast?
Yeah, I know. And to a lot of people, like with my grandparents, were married for like 50 years. And it's just crazy how, even to this day, like that motivation and that fire to be able to be good for her, because she deserves it.
Yeah.
You know, and we both come from not the best backgrounds, and it's not difficult to go back. You know, it's like once I had this cup in my hand full of, you know, everything that she's brought to the table, I was like, I'm not gonna spill this. I'm not gonna knock it over. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, what I have here is lucky, you know. And I always tell people, hey, shit happens. We fight, we argue, but just like any other relationship does. But that's how you become better.
Yeah.
You know, so she's.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I feel like in just like different conversations I've had, different mentors and people I've had the privilege of spending time with, as it relates to the experience of being a man, right? It's like there's typically these inflection points where part of us has to die in order for a new part of us to be born or to transform, you know? And I've often heard that it's a lot of those inflection points are around a new relationship, around the birth of a child, around the death of a loved one, particularly the death of your father, you know? And so there's this, it's so interesting because oftentimes in life, the greatest opportunities or the greatest growth has to come from a moment of great change or even pain. And it sounds like you've had a couple of those moments, and knowing you and your story, that is definitely a theme that has played out throughout time.
Yeah, like with the death, I've never met my dad. My mom was a single mom. She did her thing and she kept me in shape. But I was actually talking to my mom the other day. She's had a knee surgery, so I was checking up on her, making sure she's good. And she was like, I always think about it. What's your thoughts of, like your dad? And I was like, what? And we never, she's always said good things about him, never has gone, off the deep end. She's just like, he just wasn't a good man. He wasn't the person I thought. But she just randomly, after 34 years, she actually asked me, like, hey,
out of the blue,
what do you think your dad not being in the picture has done for you?
Yeah. And
I was like, just driving to a golf course, and I was like, what? I was like, are you okay? Like, are you on medication? She's like, no, I'm just curious. And I was like, well, kind of sat there, and she's like, hello, are you there? I was like, yeah, I wasn't expecting this. And it was kind of to that point where it hit me for the first time, because I've never been asked that question. And it was I'm trying to be the man who I am because he wasn't the man that I wanted to be. So having that death of a father, like what you were saying, it's like, to me, I never got that experience, but my job now is to make sure that I'm a better man than he was. Just from all the stories that she told me, and I believe her with everything, just because I still haven't heard from him.
Yeah.
And hearing things growing up, he tried to contact me multiple times, and he would always lie and say he had Lyme disease, or there was always an excuse as to why he couldn't make it. And it was in high school. I was on a trip, and he was messaging me on Facebook, and he randomly just goes, everything that your mom said was a lie. And I was like, she's never said one bad thing about you. Like, she's always said, my musical gifts, my way of holding up myself, and the way that can just pick something up and just go quick. And I was like, I blocked him as soon as I sent this message, and I was like, she's never said one thing about you. Block, close my computer, threw my computer, regretted throwing my computer, because that's all I had. But just realizing now, it's like, even being as a dad, I want to be extra with Hayden, not only because our situation that would happen, but because I never got that experience, and I don't want to end up Hayden having the thoughts that I did, feeling not wanted, feeling like I wasn't good enough, feeling like I was the problem, that my parents got divorced, even though they split up when I was 2. Like I've never met him. I have no remembrance of him.
Yeah.
But having that thought of talking to my mom, being like, I am who I am because he is who he was. And it's just always been in my mind, and she's always wondered. And all of a sudden she just broke that seal 34 years later, and I was like,
like, whoa,
man, all right, cool. And it helped me, and that kind of lit a fire for me too, because I never asked that question, and all of a sudden I was like,
had you processed that many times before, as far as like reflecting on him not being around, how that's molded and impacted you, and like modeled what you don't want to be as a father? Something you thought about?
I have, but not in the life that I have now.
Yeah.
I did back when in high school. My goal was to be someone. Hey, let's get a basketball scholarship. Let's be that person out of spite. He doesn't get to watch me.
Chip on the shoulder.
Yeah, exactly. And like he doesn't get to watch me play. He doesn't get to see me run on the court. He doesn't get to see me graduate college. He doesn't get to see me this. But now it's kind of like okay, well, now that I'm a dad, it's different, man. It's a whole different life when you become a dad. And you're 13 months in, and
it's one of those crazy things. People try to articulate with words what it's like to be a dad or be a parent, and you can put whatever words tied to it to try to describe it, and it just doesn't it doesn't come close to what the experience actually is. You can't experience it until you experience it, and I feel like so much is true of life of that. It's like experience will trump theory or you talk about something all day long, but to actually experience and live through it, I mean, that's where it's at.
Yeah. An opinion is a poor excuse for an experience.
Totally.
Yeah. It's interesting hearing you talk about your dad because, I grew up, my dad was a really abusive alcoholic. And there was a lot of chaos and a lot of intensity. And years later, I had this really successful mentor who was inquiring about my situation growing up and what was it like. And I was telling him about my dad. And he said, Anthony, I've kind of developed this idea over the years. And he goes, I call it the sins of our fathers. And he goes, when I look back on my father and his father's father, and you go back generations, every father commits sins against their sons. Sins that he doesn't know. Maybe he's blind. Maybe he's lacking awareness. Maybe he's just in a very difficult place. And so knowingly or unknowingly, he commits sins of the father. And then that gets passed down to generation and to generation. And so the goal is for you, for men in general, to figure out a way to end the sins of our fathers and not pass that down to the next generation. And if we can be the type of man and leader that has the capacity to do that, then generation after generation, the sins start to disappear and you can actually completely root them out of the family. And I love your story because I had the sin of a father being abusive alcoholic. I've never drank in my life, right? You have the sin of not having a father who is, just neglect or just disappeared. So now you show up for your kids in a powerful way so that your sons can never say what you say about him. Right. And I know you have your own experience in your own ways as well. And one of the things that I love, and one of the reasons why Spencer and I have always had these conversations, there's always been this desire of how do we just become the best fucking dude we can be? And the answer is, I don't know, right? But part of the answer is conversations like this, and then trying to learn from others' mistakes, from past experiences and past mistakes that we make. And then one of the things I've always believed is the greatest gift we have is each other, right? Because your story can inspire you to be a better dad. The two of you can inspire me one day when I become a dad to do the whole thing, right? And so if we're learning and growing through each other, then ultimately we're each other's greatest gift. Yeah. And so I love that you've been able to take a very difficult and or challenging, painful, hurtful situation, having an absent father, put a powerful or empowering meaning on it and use that for good. And so often in life, I think the experience we have in life comes down to the meaning that we give everything. And if we're giving something a shitty meaning and a disempowering meaning, then that becomes the anchor or the excuse that holds us back. But if we give it an empowering one, it allows us to be moved forward.
It's super easy for us to find that anchor too. Just to create one, just out of thin air. And I've done it multiple times in my past and holding on to it, why am I doing that? But it's because it's an easy way out. Yeah. That we're not mentally thinking that we're actually doing. But in the end, when you just said that, I was like, man, how many anchors am I holding on to? Just by sitting here and I'm just like, okay, well, there's one. All right, well, there's another one. Well, why? And I didn't even hear the last, couple words. I'm just gonna be honest with you, because in my mind, I was like, man, this is good. We've only been talking for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and I'm like, man, we're already helping each other. Yeah. And it just kind of went through this motion of, could you imagine? Just this small group, how it could change.
It's so powerful, and you can learn lessons so much sooner. There's lessons I didn't learn until I was 35. In a lot of ways, I don't think I truly became a man until I was 35 years old, because the lessons I had to learn and grow through to understand what it actually means to be a man. Yeah. And by sharing those and talking about those amongst men, hopefully inspiring the younger generation or others to learn from my lessons, from your lessons at an earlier age. You didn't really reflect too much on not having your father present until you're 34. How would have things maybe shifted if you would have had the conversation at 24? Yeah. And in a different way. And a lot of times we got to grow through the boyish, ego-centered, drive that we all have as young boys and go through that, right? But
I want to click on this for a minute because I think it's a really interesting topic. You talked about you don't believe you became a man until 35. Then you followed that up with that ego, boyish perspective, right? I think all of us sitting here could admit when we were in our early 20s, we were like, we're a fucking man, we're this, we're that, we know what we want, And I feel like the older that you get, the more you realize you don't know what you don't even know, and the more appreciation you have for the perspective that only time can give you. So maybe
Time or experience.
Yeah.
Time or experience, yeah.
Well, I think I would not even say experience as much as I would say, well, time multiplied by experience. Because we can have a lot
on each other.
we can have a lot of experiences at a young age, but you still are lacking the perspective that time gives you. So here's my question for both of you guys. When do you believe now, in reflection, you like truly understood what it meant to be a man, and what was that inflection point that caused it? Since you were mentioning it, why don't you start?
What's up, guys? Spence here, co-founder of Live Bearded, and we wanted to take a quick break to let you know that this show is sponsored by Live Bearded. Meek and I started Live Bearded back in 2016. We're on a mission to help beardsmen look, feel, and be their best. So if you find value out of the show, if you have a beard or know someone who does, do us a favor and share livebearded.com. Go to the website, check us out. We've got the best beard products money can buy. All right, guys, back to the show.
I'll give you some time to think. I'm giving you some time to think.
I was like, man, it's good. It's got that guest help over here.
Yeah, no, I thought about this a lot, and honestly, in our Western society and culture, we don't have like a process of like when you become a man, right? There's no ritualistic process. It's like when do you become a man? Is it when you're 16? Is it when you're 18 and can go to war? Or 21, you can drink alcohol? When you move out of the house? When you lose your virginity? Like, when is it defined? And really, to me, it needs to be a process that is guided, and you need to learn skills and be developed through mentorship, either through your father. I think it needs to be a process that's guided by a masculine role. So if it's not a father, it could be a father figure or some sort of masculine role. Mothers and feminine energy can be super powerful for nurturing boys in adolescence, and it's critical. But I think becoming a man requires a almost ceremonial process of identifying what it means to be a man and then going through that. And that's either through somebody guiding and molding you. You as a father, you want to be intentional, right? And show Hayden like what it means to be a man and be there and represent and show up for him, not like what your father did, right? Or there's ways you can have like a traumatic experience to then kind of shake you at your core to then have that kind of wake up moment.
Yeah.
And it can be experienced in a number of different ways. It could be a death, it could be an addiction, it could be all sorts of stuff, right? And so for me, I think a lot of my evolution from boy, ego, self-centered, just all about me was my boy adolescence that I still carried on into my early 30s. And it wasn't until I struggled with addiction and hit rock bottom and literally had this quite literally come to Jesus, talk to God, like I'm at rock bottom. I need to either get my shit together or like I'm a dead man. I'm walking dead, right? And so it took a very traumatic experience for me to look in the mirror and say, I'm not living with honor and integrity. You know, I'm not living with courage. I'm a shell of a man. I'm being selfish, and I'm not doing what I believe men are built inherently to do, which is to provide and protect, to lead with honor and integrity, right? To serve selflessly. And so I had to experience that to actually kind of go through the war of it to even recognize what values and traits should I have as a man, and then go identify them first, and then go develop them just like any other skill.
So to summarize that, and knowing you struggled with some addictions. Those addictions led you to hit what you thought was your emotional rock bottom because you hurt some of the people you cared most about. That pain in that moment was an inflection point that demanded the old version of you die and a new version of 100%. You be reborn.
Yeah, 100%.
And that moment when you realized that has to die and the new version needs to be reborn is when you feel like you started to become a man.
100%. Identified who that man needs to be, what values, what traits, what characteristic traits, right? What inputs, what do I need to do on a daily basis? What are my new standards? And the old shit was gone. So the partying days, the drinking days, all that shit was an old version of me. He's dead and gone. Yeah.
I love it. This is something that we've talked a lot about, but I just feel so strongly about. I think maybe one of the most important thing we will ever do as men is sit down and intentionally decide and define who we want to be. What values are we going to live our life by? What principles, what standards, what rules, what beliefs? And it takes total intention and commitment. It's not something that you can just do passively, right? And unfortunately, most men just go through life passively and they don't define what you want. I remember I heard this, I can't remember who it was, but I was at this talk and it was an actor. And he said, what I learned very early on is when I got to Hollywood, if I didn't define who I was and what type of person I wanted to be, Hollywood was going to misinform me. And I thought that was really beautiful. And if you zoom out and you say, let's go out of Hollywood for a minute, but you say, if we as men don't define who we want to be, the world is going to misinform us. Social media and culture and trends and all that shit is going to take
social
us
media.
in a direction that we will be unrecognizable to ourselves. So I say that to say, I think this intentionality of like finding that inflection point and having the awareness to know like I have proverbially, I can't say that word, I've really fucked up, right?
There you go.
Or I have this incredible new opportunity or this incredible new woman or child or this, like whatever that is, we have to recognize that in the moment and then use that to take us to the next level.
Yeah, and the only extension of that, which is 100% agree, is it's not just identifying it and then theorizing or verbally saying, I need to do this or I need to do that, because that goes away. Like as men, like it is 100% through our actions every single day that then will yield those results. And without the action, it's like, yeah, you can say, oh, I need to be a better husband, or oh, I need to get in better shape. And it's like, that's all fluff and bullshit if you don't actually go do the fucking work. Like,
go to the fucking gym.
Go to the fucking, right? And that applies to everything, whether it's like being a better husband, being a better father, like work-related stuff, relationship, I mean, literally anything. But it's like put in the reps, do the work, and earn it, right?
Yeah, there's levels to this shit. You know, like you talking about, you had your addiction, your problems, but you thought that was it.
Yeah.
But then you had the next level. Hey, okay, well that's going to change everything. That's going to change your goals. It's going to change how you get there. It's going to change the steps you need to take to be able to get there, right? So for me, I feel like it's like one of those games that levels never stop. You just start
100%.
getting better. You start getting stronger, and it's not that you're failing. It's like, okay, shit comes in life that you need to adjust and you need to adapt, because, you know, going back to the caveman days, men had to adapt from everything, you know, and nowadays it's so much hard talking about social media, trying to be like, hey, okay, well, I follow, you know, all these influencers. Okay, well, why? Are you trying to be like him? You trying to be like him? Are you actually trying to listen to what these guys say that has worked for them? Or are you actually benefiting yourself and not just following a book, not just following a script, a step-by-step how to be a man? You know, it's like everyone's gonna be different. You know, being a dad, it's way different than someone who's single,
Totally different.
and hanging out at home, being able to go out every night. And no offense to my friends who may be watching this, but one of them texts me. He's like, hey, let's go out Saturday night and grab some drinks with the guys. I was like, you know I'm sober.
Yeah.
I was like, you know I'm in bed asleep by 8:30 now.
Yeah.
You know why? Because I have a routine where I get up at 4:35 in the morning. I go on a run in the morning. I go work out with my wife. I go hang out with my son. Like, we have our schedule that works for us, because that's what makes our family the way that it is. So talking about leveling up is just always going to be in my mind, which helps me get to the next level, because I want to win.
Yeah.
You know,
I want to ask you a question, because you talk about your kind of previous life, partying around some friends. You just mentioned, hey, friends are still inviting you, but you're sober. How do you look at who you surrounded yourself with? Because when I think about my past lives, and it's like the crew I hung out with, you know, I'm a 4 a.m., 4:30 a.m. guy now. Like, I don't hang with the same guys I used to. And sometimes that's like the harsh truth of evolving as a man and as a person, right? Is like shedding the weight of people that maybe don't have the same standards, or maybe bad influence, your context, your surroundings. What does that look like for you to go from past to life? Obviously, you're living in a different state at the time. So is that like the physical move help kind of shed that new kind of context surroundings? Or?
Yeah, it really did help me. And I feel like I needed to do that, because I kept getting drawn back in. And it's just because I liked to be around that, you know, but I knew the best thing for me to do was to make a sacrifice. And you have to make a sacrifice in order for you to be better. You have to make a sacrifice in order to level up. You have to make a sacrifice just because that's what you got to do. You know, and fucking sucks sometimes, and it hurts, and you lose people. You know, there's tons of people that I don't talk to anymore that I used to be best friends with. But you know, they're living their life, and I'm living mine. I'm happy. They're happy.
Beautiful.
But again, different levels. You know, we're all in different levels. You guys are killing, you know, this company. You guys are awesome. You have I know as soon as you had your kid, it was like, all right, what's next? What do I do? You know, and we've been through that. And, you know, with you, with your entire dreams that I follow you all the time on Instagram, I followed you guys both for a while, and just seeing your focus versus mine, I'm like, man, what am I doing with my life? But then it hit me of like, okay, we're all on different levels,
Yeah.
but we're all playing the same game.
Yeah.
You know, so
One of my favorite quotes just on this exact topic is every man has two lives, and his second begins when he realizes he only has one. And part of that one is created by the inflection point, right? So bringing it back around, like when do you think that you had that inflection point that was like, wow, this is what it really means to show up as a man or to show up for my family?
we'll get to the nitty gritty. Everything changed about 2 years ago. My son was diagnosed with a rare cancer, battled 8 months, and he ended up passing away October 5th of 2023. So that's a whole different world that I'm still 2 years later trying to adapt, work around, trying to figure out how can I still be a dad? How can I still be a husband? How can I still be a man while battling something that I would never want anyone to have to go through? I used to say that, when Axel was in the hospital, it's like, hey, I don't wish this on anyone. This is the worst case experience. And then all of a sudden, slowly it snowballed effect into a whole new world, I guess I should say, that no one knows.
Yeah.
And it's the world of unknown. So what I'm going to do is fix that. My goal is to bring light and help these parents with our foundation and doing everything that I can to help men, trying to talk my wife into being that person for the wives too, and like what it takes to be a woman, and she's definitely not that type of person to talk at all. Like when I told her we were going to be on the news, she had a little freak out moment, and she was like, what am I going to wear? What's my hair going to look like? I was like, calm down. It's in like 2 weeks. She's like, you don't understand. I was like, you're right. I don't.
Yeah.
But that's that part of being a man. Like we have that leadership and we have that vision that we need to continue to be there no matter how difficult it is. And that's just our standards. Like true men have standards that others can't comprehend. Our wives don't understand the things that we do. Our moms don't understand the things that we do. There's other men who don't understand why we do the things that we do, and that's okay.
Yeah. You mentioned men have to have vision and are leaders, right? What was that for you when you're in the middle of that moment, right? So you find out that your son gets diagnosed with cancer. There's so much uncertainty. You don't know what's going on. And then you guys go on this 8-month-long journey. I can't imagine literally get chills thinking about that journey of uncertainty, of unknowns, helplessness, like all of the feelings, right? Take us back to that moment and give us an idea of what you are thinking and feeling in that moment and how you're trying to process while also trying to lead.
It was day by day, 24 hours for 24 hours, from when you wake up to you go to sleep. That was my goal, was that 24 hours, because like you said, it's uncertain, and when Axel passed, it was a 24-hour flip. We didn't know. Luckily, we were able to be there the last minutes, where I drove up to Maricopa. I destroyed the car that was given to me. Luckily, the engine blew because I was hauling ass up there, because my father-in-law called me. He's like, you need to be here now. And my wife was on a work trip because we had to pay bills, and I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't even go to the gym for his time because he was so immune compromised that it changed everything. So I had to do home workouts, I had to do push-ups, sit-ups, squats, being active with the boys. And day by day was probably the most difficult thing to work on how to lead, because leaders, you can't do day by day. It's for me, I'm a very structured person and a very plan-oriented was me. So I had to fix that and be like, okay, 24 hours, what can I do for my wife? Because she was at the hospital. I would go up there on the weekends and I would give her weekends off. So it was tough having to work that. I hardly saw her, never. We in passing, because it was during that time where kids weren't allowed up at up in the hospital. So it was literally in the lobby, 2 minutes, love you.
Yeah.
What's going on today? Does he have any tests? Does he have anything this? And that was it. So for 8 months, that's what it was like. And it was hell.
So you're saying that, and so it's in 22, you said? Is that
23.
23?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So you've got this incredibly painful moment where your son's in the hospital. He can't leave. He's in critical condition. You're trying to weather that storm while make money, while keep your sanity, while leading, and you don't even have the comfort and real like capacity to weather this with your wife, because when you're at the hospital, she's at home taking care of the other son. When she's at the hospital, you're at home working and taking care of the other son. And there's no capacity to like really truly try to like be in each other's presence for an extended period of time.
Right.
How the fuck do you manage that, bro?
Earlier I talked about, star-crossed lovers. Like there's a reason we were brought together. And we've talked about it multiple times. We feel like we were brought together because we could handle it from all the bullshit that we both have gone through in the past, with my wife being honorably discharged from the Army because of a heart condition. She has had multiple heart surgeries. So with her getting that hard, like I wanted to save people's lives in a way that not many people are willing to do, to sacrifice their life for strangers. Like that's one thing that drew me to her was, wow.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty cool of you, and then she told me her story and I was like, that fucking sucks. She's like, yeah, but I didn't want to sit behind a desk. I had the opportunity to, but I wouldn't be happy, and it's just having her, we had that connection that we built. It was just, we were so drawn to each other that even in those quick 2 minutes and then the couple days that she would be home and we'd be home as a family, it was just kind of like, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna go to the zoo? Are we gonna like do a family event? Or are we just gonna sit at home, watch the boys play?
Yeah.
And be in the presence, like with those 24-hour presence, and it's just a cherishing moment that you just sit down and be like, man, I'm happy because my family's home.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things. And now she's working at Phoenix Children's. She's studying to be a nurse, so it's awesome. She wants to be, again, in the trenches, saving people's lives up front. And I brought that up to her the other day. I was like, told you, there's a reason why that happened. Now you can do what you want. Let's help people. If you want to work, she wants to work at Phoenix Children's Hospital. And I was like, you are crazy. Like that's insane. Like whenever I drive past it, I get like this huge heart in my chest, and I'm like,
and for everybody listening, that's where Axel was.
yes, Phoenix Children's.
And that's where he passed.
Yeah. Yep.
So she wants to go back to the hospital that you guys spent 8 months going in and out of fighting this battle.
Yep. She works there currently. She's one that kind of helps open up the doors for people and checks badges and stuff. So she's been there for about a month now. Working part-time because she's in school. She's in night classes. And
it's so crazy, man. I remember we had a customer come in at Live Bearded who basically came in and was like, hey, I have to buy like some new product. And Kane, our customer service rep, started talking to him. Long story short, what he found out was his favorite fragrance was the Executive. And
by the way, that's what I have.
He had just lost a child as well. And while they were in the hospital, in the very last moments of his child's life, he was wearing that fragrance. And every time his wife smelled it, she was automatically taken back to that moment. And she was like, you can never wear that again. I never want to smell that. I never want to think of that. Get something else. Yeah. And he came in and like told us this story. We all got emotional, and we hooked him up. But it's really interesting because we have these moments and we can either define them in a way that is negative or empowering, right? It can be disempowering or empowering. And the theme that I'm hearing through everything you're saying is like you're constantly looking for a way to turn this shitstorm into something that's better. When I've gone through like really challenging different periods of my life, I typically try to find a mantra or a saying or something that I use, that I remind myself to try to stay aligned, right? I remember I was going through a period and I was like, circumstances don't create the man, they reveal it. who you are today reveals who you truly are. And every day that was like a moment to be like, okay, I don't care what's going on. Like, I got to show up. I got to bring my best self. Don't wish it was easier. Wish you were better, right? So these are things that I've used in my life for different stages. I'm curious, as you were going through this, did you have a specific belief, a specific saying, something that you really leaned on to help pull you through and keep you capable during this period?
The biggest thing was, I actually have it tattooed on my hand just as a reminder. It's never fucking give up. Just there's no reason to. If you give up, that's weakness. That's when you start to kind of go down that rabbit hole where I still remember to this day. He was diagnosed April 1st. I was a huge whiskey guy. Loved my whiskey. Loved my Glenlivets. Loved my Basils. And when I didn't even second thought, I dumped all my whiskey down the drain. I don't know why, but looking back at it, I know that I would have gone down that path of being a functioning alcoholic again,
Self-medicating.
Exactly. And I didn't want that. And of course, all my buddies were like, why'd you just give it to me? I was like, you're right. That would have been a lot better.
But there's
dumping a $400.
Yeah.
But
there's power in taking massive action right there and saying, no, planting my flag. I'm not going to let this control me.
And I don't know what came over me to do that, and there's only one thing, and I used to be, I'm not huge spiritual, but I feel like that was God telling me, hey, you're not going to do this.
Yeah.
Like, you are going to dump it. You are going to take your son. You're going to go. It came up on my iPhone, has those things where it's like the memories.
Yeah.
And it was a picture of me holding Axel on the day that he was diagnosed. And I sent it to my wife this morning, and I was like, isn't it weird how I'm doing a podcast today? And
today is the day.
And this picture popped up on it.
Holy shit.
And it's little things like that I know Axel has thrown at me.
Yeah.
Thrown at Felicia, just random things here and there. And I was like, he's there.
Like, let's go, Dad.
Yeah. He's like, thanks.
So you say that, you don't, you're not the most spiritual guy or whatever, however you languaged it. But clearly you're finding threads that weave things together. And on top of that thread, you're attaching a meaning to it that is bigger than yourself.
Oh, yeah.
That is guided.
There's definitely something, whether it be God, Jesus, whatever people believe in. I grew up in the church. Me and my wife still go to church here and there, and we want to go more, but we just live so far. I haven't found anything that's close. But it's weird how we're being spoken to in a different way than we ever would have imagined. We're having it be. We went to the zoo recently. Just me and Felicia went to Zoo Lights. They had the little. It's probably gonna make me cry
birthday, right?
Because I'm a freaking emotional wreck. It was right before his birthday.
Okay, yeah.
And so we were sitting there. They had the little light show. The very first song was Axel and Felicia's song, "Here Comes the Sun." Very first song that came up. I start crying. She didn't kind of catch on to it until I was like, "Do you hear that?" And because her last date with Axel was at the zoo, so she was just kind of sitting there, just remembering all the time.
Yeah.
And she was just like, "Are you kidding me?" And then for me, our song came on from Coldplay. I forgot the name of it, but he used to love Sing Too. And that song was in there. And I just started just bawling.
Oh.
And I was like, who would put both of our songs in a Christmas track? Christmas light show. And I was like, there's something greater out there for sure. Like, there has to be, and it's just indescribable.
Yeah.
And it's just things that.
It's so powerful, man. And it's like, it doesn't matter what you believe. It just matters that you believe.
Yeah.
And I think, if we think about just the history of men, it's like we've always needed to believe in something. We've always had to have a vision for a greater future, for a greater opportunity, for a greater good, And
I think it helps us too.
Yeah.
Humbles us. Being humble is good. And a lot of men don't understand that it's okay to be broken down. It's okay to be like, man, okay, I need to check myself. There's something, you know, and I feel like that's what helps us realize we can be better, is if we just need to, you know, work hard and stay humble. I see that so many times. And to me, it's a different meaning than just being on a shirt or being, you know, on a poster. It's more of a, like when I had my own training company, that was our mantra was work hard, stay humble. And then I started seeing it later on. I was like, they stole my thing. And then I was like, that's really not my thing. But being humble is something different. I feel like we all need that to be able to keep ourselves grounded, keep ourselves
100%.
humble. Because if we get, you know, too much and we start to lose our vision as to why are we in the position that we're in? Why are we leading this way? You know, and then next thing you know, you fail.
Hey guys, Mink here, and I want to take a quick break from the conversation to tell you about our sponsor, Live Bearded. Spence and I started Live Bearded in 2016, and our mission from day one has been simple. We want to help beardsmen look, feel, and be their best, both with their grooming and in life. And with that, that's one of the reasons why we started the Beardsmen, because we love having these conversations about what it means to be a man today. So if you have a beard, if you want to participate in this conversation and you want to look and feel your best, go to livebearded.com, check out our products. I guarantee you will love them. And if you don't, we've got a 365-day money-back guarantee. But I promise you will. So check us out, livebearded.com. Now let's get back to the show.
I 100% agree. I think strength with humility is everything. Because you can be strong, be a strong leader and demand it out of strength, or you can be humble and earn it. And I think as men, we need to have both. Yeah. And that's a key difference between adolescence and ego-driven boyhood and true masculinity, is being strong enough, but then humble enough to only use your strength appropriately when you need it. Right. I want to ask a question. I was processing this because, man, your story, just like as a recent father, it like gets me emotional. When you're going through this and having gone through what, you know, we talked earlier about, you can't experience the emotions that being a dad or being a parent brings until you experience it. Trying to relate to what you've experienced and you and your wife have experienced is like, I can't put myself in your shoes, and I can try to and imagine my son and those things, but like you can't experience it until you experience it. And I wouldn't wish that on anyone. You mentioned that earlier. Having experienced and grown through what you've gone through with Axel, what piece of advice would you give someone in terms of how you might process going through something unimaginable or just going through hard times?
And this is just me because I care about you, because we've all grown pretty close last couple of weeks, I feel like, but we're all on that same mental level. Yeah. You know, it's like, don't try and think about what you would do. You know, it's you should be thankful that you don't have to.
Totally.
You know, so to other people, it's like, yeah, I really don't know what you're going through. I was like, good. Don't think about it. Like, be a better dad, because it's probably make me cry. I don't get to.
Totally.
With Axel.
Totally.
You know, so take what you have and be thankful and just be better that you don't have to go through this. You know, I have my ways of coping. Felicia has her ways of coping. Mine is through the foundation, being able to help people. Help dads. I tell dads all the time that if I ever meet them at the hospitals, I'm like, here's my number, text me. Yeah. Here's my Instagram. Yeah. Message me. You know, follow us on Instagram, text me, send me a message. We had two of our parents who we've helped, their child has passed away since we've started. One, a 16-year-old Jackson. The other one was actually one of Axel's friends, but he was in the hospital for 8 years, in and out. And that's something that I can't imagine. Yeah. You know, 8 months versus 8 years is literally a lifetime. Yeah. And it's just one of those things where I'm grateful, you know, that, I hate to say it, but his treatments were shorter than some of these other kids who've been suffering for years. Yeah. You know, and it takes me being like, okay, I'm happy that it was 8 months. Like, would be way happier if he, you know, kicked its ass and everything. Unfortunately, there's a reason behind it. Yeah. You know, and just being able to, again, level up during starting a new game, essentially. Yeah. Because this is a new life for me. I've never been fully into helping people, you know, but there's a reason. Like I was saying, I feel like I was led in this world, again, by a higher God, higher
Totally, it's a
something
God thing.
to get to this point. And yeah, it sucks how it started, why it started, but that's our foundation.
Tell us, let's dig into that a little bit more. Tell the audience who's listening about the foundation.
Yeah.
Let's dig into that.
So Axel Crew Foundation, Axel Crew was his name. It's a badass name.
Sick.
We help the parents who are going through pediatric cancer treatments. We send them on date nights, staycations, any ways to keep the marriage strong while they're going through pediatric cancer with their child. 1 in 16 marriages end in divorce while their child's going through cancer, which is a stupid number. Shouldn't even be close to that because that's the last thing they should be thinking of. But we just help them stick together. If it comes to marriage counseling, we send them to marriage counseling. We tried marriage counseling for a hot minute, but I realized that our person was not the smartest when it comes to grief. And some of the stuff she said, Felicia and I didn't agree with it. So we decided to work together. Yeah. And our counseling is talking. And we go on walks. She talks 20 minutes one way, I talk 20 minutes back, and that's it. And that's our therapy. And that's what works for us. Other people, they enjoy sitting on a couch, talking to a therapist, and I'm not for that. I like to be active. I like to work through things. So the foundation is helping parents cope. We're actually going to be starting a YouTube channel coming up soon. We have some awesome guests. Jason Khalipa, world's fittest man, 2008. His family went through cancer. So I reached out to them. They're going to be hopping on our podcast. The owners of Tactical Baby Gear. I don't know if you know them.
I got some gear.
Yeah. So their daughter actually had neuroblastoma as well. So at the same time as Axel, she was 12, I believe 12 or 13, 12, 11. So they've agreed to hop on too, just finding out ways to cope that worked for them.
Yeah.
How did you get through this that other people may resonate? Because everyone's different. Every couple is going to be different. You and your wife handle things different than mine and my wife does. And it's just finding ways and figuring out, hey, how can we be better as a couple for our child? I remember couldn't figure out the name that Mike and I decided, but he was incredible with a name, and I was like, I like it. Let's do it. So as soon as it starts going, we're super excited to have it on YouTube. It's on Axel Crew Foundation. Everything goes to the foundation, and figuring out how to ways. So me and Felicia will be chatting, talking, and
love it.
Should be calling me names and being a bully. And
it's such a good example of one of the things that I was touching on earlier, which is like, the greatest gift we have is each other and our shared experiences. And to kind of reframe Spence's question for a minute, like maybe not speaking specifically to that situation, but all of us are going to have tragedy in life, whatever that is, right? And we all have to find our own way to deal with it. Like you were just talking about, you and Felicia had to figure out a way that works for you. As someone who is going through or trying to figure out what that way is for them, right? What advice or what experiences might you share that helped you discover what your way of working through it is?
Be honest. Like, don't try and hide anything from your spouse.
100% agree.
Or yourself.
Or yours. Yeah, I was just about to say, because as soon as you start to do that, you start to absorb that lie. You start to absorb, hey, what am I doing? Like, should I be doing this? And you're like, well, I'm too deep now to be able to just admit that I was, lying. Just be honest, like you got to do it for yourself. Because if you're not strong for yourself, you're not gonna be strong for anyone else. You're not gonna be strong for your kid. You're not gonna be strong for your wife. You're not gonna be strong for people who you work with.
Totally.
I'm all for helping people, but I had to really come to the realization that I had stretching the truth a little bit. There's different times and places to do that, but when it comes to bettering yourself, like it's the last thing you got to do is create a persona to yourself that you aren't. This is why you were talking about social media. I hate social media. Like for that reason, there's so many different influencers out there that are telling you, do this, do that. Okay, well,
what are you doing?
Yeah,
when no one's watching.
Like, whoa. cool, man. Like, put your shirt back on. First off, your shorts are too short. let's just really focus on bettering people instead of telling people how to better themselves. It's a personal decision, and try it. It's okay to fail when it's trying to better yourself.
Yeah.
Like, that's the biggest thing. I hate failing. I hate losing. But you'll always lose if you're never going to be honest with yourself.
Yeah. So did you guys experiment a little bit and try to figure out like what your thing was? You said, you went to a therapist for a bit. That didn't necessarily resonate. You tried to do other things. Like, talk us through that. You were like, let's try this. Let's do, like, you were just kind of trying to figure out what your thing was, or?
It was kind of not back and forth of a, hey, let's create a list of things. It was kind of like a, hey, let's do this together. Or, what do you need from me? I ask Felicia that all the time. Hey, what am I doing? Is there something that I'm doing that I could do better? And the easiest thing to do is to ask. You know, but a lot of people don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that they're doing something wrong or they're doing something incorrectly. And I do my best as a man, as a father, to be that person, be that leader for the family. And Felicia's answer is always like, well, you could do the dishes more often, or like something stupid, but it's true. And it's just asking. It's being completely transparent with each other, and you start to kind of sit back and think, okay, what am I doing? How am I doing it? How can I be better? And it's just really like asking yourself that when you're up in the morning, if you can't sleep, you're, turn off Netflix, turn off Hulu, spend time with yourself and try and figure out, okay, what am I going to do to benefit my family today?
Yeah. And
just keep that in your mind. And if you don't hit it, before they go to bed, you better get the kids up and go do what you told yourself you were going to do. Yeah, they may, sleep in a little bit later or be all razzed up, and it doesn't matter though.
Yeah.
Just be honest. Yeah.
So I heard three things there, because I think this is, like if we could summarize this entire conversation, it's really about how do we work through some of the most challenging times of our life, right? And the first thing you said was like, just be honest. That deeply resonates with me. I remember in a moment of challenge in my own life, I was like really not wanting to admit to myself like how bad I had fucked up and how desperate or challenged my current situation was. And I remember I had this moment where I was like, I'm afraid to admit that I'm afraid, and it was like, I just got really honest with myself and I had a wave of emotion, but that was also the inflection point when I could then actually address the problem, right? So you have to always start out by being honest and acknowledging the situation as it is, but not worse than it is. Right? If you make it worse than it is, then you can't build from there. But I think as men, we have a mandate to be leaders. And the first thing is to see it as it is, be fucking honest, and then not see it worse than it is, right? So I think that's powerful. Then you said you've got to figure out what your thing is. And I think that's so powerful. It's like, it almost feels like an elusive answer to some degree, because it's like, well, just tell me what works for you. And sometimes that's helpful. Sometimes we can model and use that as a starting point. But the truth is, we all deal with things in vastly different ways. And so we do have to experiment, whether it's directly intentional or maybe unintentional, right? Like, you could sit down and say, what are the things that I actually enjoy doing? And could I use this as a way to work through this moment? Or you could just naturally try this or try that. But I think figuring out how you process information, what you need, I might need to take space and to really have some alone time to think through and process. You might need to sit down with Amanda and be like, I'm really struggling. Let's figure this out, right? It's like, find out, like, be really honest with yourself. Find out what you need to work through it yourself. And then I love how you said, like, say the unspoken things. Like, when you come back together, be as open and communicate as much as you possibly can. Because I think often it's the unspokens that create the most weight. And I had a good mentor of mine. He said, you are as sick as your secrets, and the secrets we carry weigh the most. And so I think for anybody that's listening, when you go through a difficult time, I don't know what it is, and I hate to say when, but the truth is,
To some degree.
the truth of life is more important than the way that we wish it was.
Yeah.
And we will all experience some level of pain, tragedy, challenge, failure, loss, right? Everybody that we love is going to die, or everybody that loves us is going to see us die. I mean, that's just the truth of the matter. And so as men, one of the best things I believe we can do is anticipate some of these challenges. We don't wish for them, we don't want them, but we at least try to create a little bit of a plan. I know when my father was kind of threatening suicide and a really abusive alcoholic. And I remember when he told me he's going to kill himself, I sat down and I was like, if he does do this, how am I going to respond? Is there anything I need to do or say? How do I manage the affairs, the finances, the things? And I just went through a checklist and I thought about it, I journaled about it, and I said, okay, if he passes, this is gonna happen. Then I'm gonna do this, then I'm gonna do that, then I'm gonna do that. And when he did pass, I was in no way prepared for the emotional experience of it. Like you guys talked about, you can't understand the emotional experience of becoming a father or losing a child. There's no way you can prepare for that emotionally. And I couldn't prepare for the emotional loss of my father. But in the chaos of the emotion, I at least had a fucking plan that I could try to work through. And that provided so much stability for me in a moment of chaos. And so I think sitting down and thinking through some of these things and then developing a plan, but understanding that it's gonna happen at some point in time as leaders, as men.
Right, yeah.
And
don't freak out when that plan decides to take a different route.
yeah.
You know, as men, we're built to adapt. We're built to adjust, you know, and you have to be able to know when that's happening, take control, and get right back on track.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna change.
100%.
And that's okay. But you know, it's life. You know, I was watching this. What was it? This guy was eating macaroni and cheese, you know, and he had cerebral palsy, and the nurse was helping him try to eat the macaroni and cheese, and he was, you know, doing his thing, and he spilt it on his shirt, and the nurse goes, "What happened there?" He was like, "Life." And I lost it. I was like, this dude's mindset is better than I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And he has cerebral palsy. And just hearing that, I was like, man, what happened? Life. I don't know what else you want me to say. And that's gonna happen. You know, life is gonna happen. It just depends on how you take it.
Totally.
Is going to transform your entire future, whether it be something big or small.
Yeah.
You know, take it for granted. You know, get yourself up off the ground, dust yourself off. You know, talk to someone that you need to, and just accept life's gonna hit you.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the whole Rocky saying, it's not how many times you get hit, but how many times you get up.
Yeah.
You know, and some of us have been knocked down quite a few times. A lot of people stayed down and KO'd, but it's those that get up.
Yeah.
And keep going is something that's very rare, is what I've noticed recently. I see a lot of stuff on Instagram and YouTube of people sulking and, you know, saying, oh, boo-hoo, this happened, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And I was like, first off, that shouldn't be on your social media. Like, this is an internal thing that you gotta figure out. Don't reach out to other people, because people can be mean on Instagram. People can be mean on that stuff. And I've had people message me on stupid stuff, like using a paper plate to have dinner the other day. This one dude messaged me on Instagram. He's like, I thought you were an alpha. I thought you were part of that 1%. You're over here using paper plates. And I was like, what? I was like, who are you? Like, yeah. I use
The
paper.
safety behind the computer screen.
I went to
can be super
Costco. It
tough.
was $13 for 150. Like, that's a good deal if you ask me. So I'm not going to use a plate. Like, no. It's just weird how there's some people that portray you a different way. But if you just get that, hey, it's life. Go on with your life.
Yeah.
But people hold on to stuff, and it really affects people to the core, and it's unfortunate. But having a group, having guys, having someone to speak to
I think that part's critical, and part of the reason why we started Live Bearded is like you think about the group of friends you have when you're a young boy in school, sports, you got all these guys around you, and as you grow in age, it's like you get married, kids, life gets busy, people relocate, you don't have men around you, and if you do, like, what are the quality of the men around you? Like, how inspiring are they? What standards and accountability they hold for you? And it's why it is critical for men to surround themselves with high-value men that they can learn from, share experience from, right? It's critical.
Yeah. One of the frames I've always loved is everybody is either an example or a warning, right? And I've thought about that a lot as I've heard it over the years. And one of the greatest indicators I've found of whether someone is going to be an example in my life or a warning is, are they a victim of circumstance? Do they see life as happening to them?
That's a red flag.
Or are they the creator of it and see life as happening for them?
Right.
You know, and if you have the capacity to see it as happening for you, then that's when the grace, the gift, the opportunity, the growth all takes place. So question for you, like we've obviously talked and touched on the power of like community, proximity. How important has mentors, strong masculine men, role models, how important has that been in your life, knowing that you didn't have the one as a father growing up? How have you added that in at later years, and how do you try to use that today to process and work through some of the shit that we do?
Yeah, when I was younger, it was all basketball coaches were my mentors. I was part of a school that brought players from other countries into America to play basketball. It was one of the top high school programs in the country. Kevin Durant played with my brother, so I got to watch him growing up. I don't know him now, so Kevin, if you're watching, hook him up some tickets. But I haven't talked to him forever. But the coaches and even those guys who came from a third world country that I still talk to this day. It's been 20 years since I've seen some of them, but they follow me on Instagram. But just having that role model of, hey, you left your third world country to come better yourself, better your family, to go attempt to play pro basketball, which a majority of them did. Seeing that grace that they gave me, because they understood that I didn't have a dad. I didn't understand it then as to how detrimental that is to some people, but they understood because they were older. They were of that age of giving themselves the opportunity to help someone who needed it. So I feel that definitely played a role as to where I am now, putting yourself out there to help someone who needs it, because you know what it's like to not have someone, so having those coaches, having Coach Vetter, having Coach Sutton, my high school coach, Gary, he was they were all there for me when I need it, but I definitely didn't take advantage of it like I should have, because again, I was young. I was a child. I didn't understand. I didn't comprehend what they were doing until later on in life, when I was like, man, they are completely giving themselves to me to learn and grow. So it's wild. Yeah. Looking back at it now, because again, things I don't talk about my past very much, because to me it's in the back of my head. I'm in this new chapter in life, and there's no reason to go back. But when you brought that up, all the stuff's coming to my head. And I'm just now realizing that these men in my life were there for me, doing mentorship program pretty much. And that's something that's could be next on our foundation list.
There you go.
Just having a men's group and having a women's group, and just really taking care of the most difficult thing possible, whatever it may be. It doesn't have to be, the pediatric cancer doesn't have to be anything. Whatever you're going through.
It's powerful, man. It's so interesting how we are most capable of supporting and serving people that are experiencing what we just did, right? So like the person that we were 6 months ago, a year ago, 5 years ago, that's who we have the most capacity to serve. And it's so cool what you're doing with the Axel Crew Foundation, because all of the stuff that you hear around loss of a child and the foundations, and just kind of like the whole support foundation charity stuff, is always about the kids, which is incredible, right? But the other side of the child is the parents that are going through that experience. And I've never heard anybody talk about doing something to support them And I just really, I honor you. And I admire the fact that you took that experience and sat down with your wife and said, there's a ton of support for the kids out here and they need all of it. But like, there isn't really any support for the parents. And what if we were the ones that used our story and our experience to try to serve parents in what is likely the most difficult and challenging time they will ever have in their life? Yeah. And I think that that is by definition using the most painful moments that we have to create something that's good. And one of the experiences Spence and I have had being here at Live Bearded over the last 8 years is a lot of conversations with a lot of men. And some of the conversations typically happen around pain, tragedy, the loss of a loved one. And I've had so many guys over the years that we've seen post and talk about it. It's like, what do you say in those moments? And as I've thought about it more, it's like, there is no words or no reason, nothing to say other than like, there's gotta be something. If we believe in a God or grace or something beyond ourselves, and we believe that life is guided, then as much as this sucks now, there must be a seed in here somewhere of something that will grow and become better because this happened, right? And you, my friend, are a beautiful example of that because you are growing something that will help support people in a way that they could have never received support from because you've been through it. Right. And I think in so many ways, that is our responsibility as men. It's to run headfirst into life, to get the shit kicked out of us, to pick ourselves up, and then at a moment in time, turn around and help the people that are going through something that we just went through. And being that mentor, being that guide, maybe eliminating the sins of the previous versions of ourselves or the previous fathers of ourselves. And I just, dude, it's been amazing getting to spend some time with you. It's amazing seeing what you've done. And I'm really, really grateful for you coming on and sharing this with us today. And I would love for you to share where people can follow you, how they can get involved or follow the journey with Axel Crew.
Yeah, our Instagram is Axel Crew Foundation, website, axelcrewfoundation.org.
Yeah.
I keep it simple.
Keep it simple,
because
baby. It works.
Us guys need to, kiss. Just keep it simple, stupid. Makes it easier for everyone. We're growing. We're building. We're actually, Axel got his room at PCH, so we're working on litigation for all that stuff. And it's grown to the point of how many other hospitals don't have this. So that's another avenue that we're reaching out to is all the other pediatric hospitals that don't have a room for the parents, and we're offering, hey, we'll take care of it. We'll service it. We'll make sure everything's taken care of because it's something like what you were saying. There's no other foundation. We're the only foundation that takes care of the parents. Talking to one of our parents that are going in our foundation. They moved here from Ohio. They're starting a foundation to help parents with their mortgages and figuring. So it's like because I helped them, they're helping others, and it's just that ripple effect. Yeah. And to me, I'm just like, let's fucking go.
Yeah.
That's sick, bro.
Spence and I have a good buddy who he lost his daughter to a very rare form of blood cancer.
Okay.
And they spent about 9 months in the NICU. And one of the most painful things they learned was very few parents can even be in the NICU because they're all living their lives trying to take care of other kids and jobs and things. Yeah. And my buddy, his name's Ezra, he's a very successful guy. And so he had the financial capacity to be able to be there most days. And they relocated to be there. And he saw this play out where there's just these babies in the NICU that they don't ever get held or picked up, or if they do, it's by a nurse and it broke their spirit. So after their daughter passed, he started a foundation to help pay for one of the parents or both of the parents to be able to be present in the NICU.
That's awesome.
While they're, and so it's just like one of the things that's so beautiful about the human spirit is like once we go through pain, we have such a desire to try to eliminate it for others. And I think that is the greatest part of ourselves and maybe the greatest gift that we have that we can give, And so it's been really beautiful to watch what you're doing, and I'm really excited to see it continue to evolve and grow. But any final thoughts, Spence?
Yeah, man, just honored and privileged to have you share the conversation, give your perspective. It's a beautiful thing to witness and excited to continue to watch the journey. truly inspiring to see how you've chosen to respond and use it in such a beautiful way to make a huge impact on the lives of many. And we're on this journey with you. However we can support you.
Excited for
Let's fucking go.
It's gonna be huge.
Yeah, baby.
Never fucking give up, right?
That's right. I love that. All right, guys, that's all we got for you today. If you made it this far, thank you so much for your support. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. We'll be coming to you soon with some more. And stay tuned. We'll chat soon.